But what I thought was actually going on, like I thought there's some weird kind of time loop here going on. It's like Jack was that previous caretaker, and it's just he's like living this endless loop of being the caretaker at this hotel and going through this torment. That's what I was like thinking then at this stage.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Audiobook Club podcast. I'm host for today, Michael, and with me are my three co-hosts, if you want to introduce yourselves.
I'm Stephen.
I'm Jason.
Were's Johnny.
Nailed it.
Anticlimactic.
Okay, and today we will be discussing The Shining by Stephen King, narrated by Campbell Scott. Just before I give a summary of what it was about, I suppose we should talk about the game. Last time, you all give your guesses. I'll probably just keep this really simple and say that Stephen wins.
I listened to the last episode and enjoyed the edit, Michael.
Yeah, his guess was so accurate that it could not be included in the episode.
It was long as well.
You literally gave the entire shot.
Yep. If anybody's curious what Stephen said, just read The Shining. That's basically what he said.
What did I say? Basically what Steven said, but the hotel's haunted or something.
I think, yeah.
I think my guess was the best in saying that the boy goes round.
Technically,
introduce himself as Johnny. And...
I think I'm closest because Steven didn't mention the hotel being haunted.
I think you slightly piggybacked off of Stephen's guess, though.
Oh, what else is supposed to say? So summarise the bloody book before I got the answer.
You let me go first. Like you said, I could go.
Yeah, you should always jump on if you know.
Yep.
Right,
you should have interrupted him rudely.
I will. It's on.
You should have said, "No, Stephen, there's a ghost, or maybe there's not."
So, just a bit about why I chose this book. I've talked about Stephen King endlessly on this podcast, probably annoyingly so. So I thought it was about time that we should do one of his books. I said to Stephen, I think I said during the podcast one time, we could do this entire podcast only doing Stephen King books. And then Stephen said, please no. I've no intentions of ever doing that, but I would like to do probably one Stephen King book a year. So I might pick one a year, but I'll see what you guys think of this book first, because I have no idea what you think of it.
Can we do those ones that are like banned next? I can't remember what they're called now.
Banned?
School shootings. Can we do that one? Yeah, you know those ones that it's like about someone in like a high school, and I think it's at least one book. It's about some high school student, and they like shoot up the place. So it was banned in America.
I was gonna say I think he actually unpublished it. Like it was his decision to. So I don't even think if you can actually get that book, but I mean, if we could, I would be up for reading it. I've never actually read it or listened to it, but yeah, as I said, massive Stephen King fan. I love horror books. Stephen King is the king of horror. He's aptly named. He's just he has written so many books. I think it's over 70 at this stage. He is extremely prolific. So out of all his books, why pick this one? I think that this specific book is probably one of his most tightly written. It's the third book that he published after Carrie and Salem's Lot. I don't think it's his first masterpiece. I think Salem's Lot is also, and it's up there as one of his best as well. That's a vampire book, but this is one of the best ghost stories of all time, in my opinion. It's really up there with the works of Charles Dickens and Shirley Jackson. It's an absolute classic, but it's more modern than those books. Those are of a previous time. This is late 70s, so it's more our era. Ghost story. I think Stephen King is massively influential, even in modern pop culture. One of the biggest horror directors going right now is Mike Flanagan. He did the sequel to this, Doctor Sleep. He did the movie for that. He also did Haunting of Hill House, which I would say has more in common with works of Stephen King than it does off the actual Haunting of Hill House book, if you've read both of those. And of course, Stranger Things, probably the biggest show that's still going at the moment. Stranger Things is just so massively influenced by Stephen King, so his influence on pop culture cannot be overstated, in my opinion. His works just have influenced so much of what we consume now. And the reason that I wanted to do The Shining is because I think if doing a book like The Stand or It, they're just so massive, and this is nice and tight. It's 15 hours, so it wasn't too epic or anything, but I think it was still a good introduction, and it's a really, really famous book. It's really well known, and obviously the movie as well is something that we can talk about. So just before I ask you guys what your thoughts are, your general thoughts about the book are, I wanted to just ask you a different question. What I just wanted to ask you guys, because obviously I write horror stories as well, and I'm really into horror movies. I'm really, really into horror at the moment. And I wanted to ask you guys, how do you feel about horror in general? Is it like a genre that you guys even like?
It's not one that I would like normally put on or go for. Not because I'm scared or they frighten me or anything, or I like the jump scares or anything. I just find them boring, really, to be honest. I mean, I could watch one. Like, that's Sarah, my partner. She really likes horror films. So we lots of times when we go see a film, it'll be a horror film, right? And it's fine. I enjoy it, but I wouldn't choose to put one on. I could watch one easy, but I wouldn't go out of my way to put one on.
Yeah, it's the opposite in my relationship, where I love horror movies and Greta really does not like them. But I'll go on to you next, Jason.
I wouldn't really go out of my way to watch horror either. I mean, it's funny you mentioned sort of Mike Flanagan. I have been very tempted in the past to sort of start some of his shows. Maybe not the Haunting the Hill House. There was that other one about the priest, I'm pretty sure.
Midnight Mass, was it?
Yeah, which I was very tempted, only because I actually like all the actors in it too. I think he works with this guy a lot. Is it Rahul Kohli?
Is that one something about like an island or something?
Yeah.
That's
the one, yeah.
Priest rocks up, yeah. And I see very recently there's like a trailer out for his new series, Fall of the House of Usher, I think. But yeah, I wouldn't massively go out of my way to watch horror. Honestly, I'm not the best of horror, like the traditional jump scary sort of horror, I suppose. I remember, I think it was my 13th birthday, I went to watch Paranormal Activity 2 in the cinema and had to leave because I was so shit scared.
Those movies were scary, to be fair.
But I could sit and watch something eerie, something tense. Like, I mean, I'm sure we'll get on to the movie at some stage, but I have watched the movie also since reading the book, and there was times I was quite sort of tense watching it. I didn't know what to expect because I hadn't seen it before. And I suppose the whole aspect of fear essentially is like fear of the unknown. You just don't know what's going to happen next,
Maybe that's why I don't like it, because I like trying to guess what's going to happen next.
I think, generally a lot of people's fears are just fear of the unknown. Like, they don't know what's going to happen or who's going to pop out or whatever. So it's what gets people.
The greatest fear is fear itself. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love horrors. I believe... I don't know what the cause is, but I believe that it was whenever the backstory is that Michael had a birthday. I don't know what age Michael and all would have been, probably
10.
about 8 or 9. 10, and I was like...
Oh, we watched The Ring?
I was like 5.
Yep.
Yeah, and we watched The Ring, and it kind of traumatized me, and like, if there's a horror movie put on, I will leave the room. Like, I will not be put for it. That being said, I kind of actually agree with what with Jason was getting at there. Like, what I believe The Shining was, because I did watch the movie as well. The more psychological horror, where it's less about the just loud noises and jump scares. It's more about like I would say The Shining is less. It is in the horror genre, but it's more like in psychological thriller kind of territory, which I actually quite enjoy. So I would say that side of horror I actually do enjoy, but I don't like the traditional kind of just jump scary kind of just the stereotypical horror. I would absolutely like hate that. Like I haven't watched a horror movie since oh well, apart from The Shining, now I haven't watched the horror movie since The Ring. So
yeah, I think a lot of people seem to think that the like horror as synonymous with like the jump scare genre, but like that is just one type of horror, because as I pointed out to you before, Jonathan, you really loved The Walking Dead when that show was good, and that is a horror show. It's not scary or anything usually, but it's still based on horror tropes and horror material. So I like
we talked about the most recent season of Stranger Things as well. Like the whole like Vecna kind of thing. That is. I can see why that's classified as horror, but I don't find it scary. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that kind of horror I can deal with.
If we're counting that as horror, then I do like it then, because that more sort of like thriller,
disturbing. It's kind of like a disturbing horror.
I prefer that than the suspense one.
Me too.
I suppose horror doesn't have to mean terrifying. Like
no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me after a hangover when I've got the horrors real bad, terrifying.
I kind of want to go off and talk about Stranger Things now, but I don't want to like diverge this podcast too much. So I'm gonna ask you now, guys. What's your now that you've talked about how ambivalent you are towards horror? I want to hear what each of you thought about this book, because I am extremely fascinated, and I'm expecting a diverse range of opinions here on this today. So. I'll start with you again, Stephen, since you answered the first question first.
Okay.
Just stay with the same format.
What do you think I'm going to say, first of all?
I think you're going to be middle of the road on this, Stephen. I think you're going to be about in the end you're going to rate this about a 2.5.
You're 100% right, Michael. I thought this was just okay, to be honest. Like, it was listenable for sure, but I wasn't at any point, scared, or it didn't even have a sense of like suspense or anything. It was just kind of going along. I was kind of just going along with it, like nothing to me. Nothing really happened, right? But it was okay, and everything that happened, I kind of saw coming, And I don't know if that's because it was blatantly obvious, or if just because of my magnificent guess.
I think this
your Mystic Meg.
This is a strange one, because Danny is psychic, and he basically tells us what's going to happen in this entire story at the start.
Well, yeah, that too.
So it's kind of laid out for us, and it is a strange thing to do that. But I think that kind of takes it from being more mystery and to suspense. So I'll go on to Jason then, since you answered second last time, Jason. I'm just going to keep the same order for the sake of simplicity.
Yeah, may as well. So I mean, you've guessed Stevens. What do you think I'm going to say?
I think you'll give this slightly higher. I think you'll have liked this book. I think you'll give it about a 3.5.
Well, you're wrong. I really, really like this book. I would say I still enjoyed the first half, but I definitely there was like a certain point that I don't want to say just right this second, but there was like a certain chapter where like things really picked up for me. And it just went from like a good book to like a really great book. Now, in fairness, that probably was about halfway through, but I was enjoying it up to that point. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, cool. So, Jonathan, do you want to give your general thoughts on it?
Yeah. Well, I guess you've guessed everyone else's, so I'll let you try and guess what you think that I felt. I think
even though I know, Jonathan, you grew up really hating horror, I don't think The Shining is that scary. As you said, it's more it has a cycle. It's like paranormal, psychological, nearly. I'm going to say that you like this book, and you're going to give it a 4, is what my guess will be.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, I find this book pretty enjoyable. Again, yeah, for something that I didn't expect to be. As an actual, like, in terms of the actual book side, in terms of language and stuff like that, I thought it was very easy to follow and stuff like that. Like, I like the last episode for Blood Meridian, like I was absolutely confused and lost in that book. Like this one, I just thought even if you missed a wee bit, you could just jump back in and like you still kind of knew what was going on. So I find this book very, very easy to listen to, and yeah, the actual story itself was quite interesting, and like it's one of them ones that's kind of left me, like I've kind of left with more questions. Like there's a lot of things that I'm interested here to see what your thoughts are, like when we actually dive deeper. Because there's a lot of things that I maybe don't know complete answer to, or maybe you're not supposed to. But yeah, that's definitely I find this book very, very interesting, and yeah, I would not say it's scary at all. Like I even watched the movie, and yeah, I wouldn't say it's at all scary. Like.
That was one of the like major factors of picking it too, because I know like hard to follow has been one of the complaints of certain books that we've done this year. So I thought this book was, because it's got such a small cast. I mean, it's, for the majority of the book, it's basically just Danny and his parents, Jack and Wendy, for most of the book. So it's a very small cast to follow. I think it's your basic ghost story, so we kind of know how those go. And as I said, very early on in this story, Danny tells us everything that's going to happen in this book. He kind of warns us, because he has psychic, or he's got the ability known as the Shining, which is basically that he's psychic. So I'm just going to jump on here to what the beginning of this book is. Okay, so The Shining was written in 1977. It is a horror novel by Stephen King. As I said, it was his third published novel. It was his first to become a bestseller. The Shining is extremely, as Stephen King has admitted himself, it's extremely semi-autobiographical. You can tell that he's definitely writing about himself. The main character, Jack Torrance, is an aspiring writer. He's a sort of a failed writer, and a recovering alcoholic. It starts basically, what this book starts at is kind of unusual, because a lot of writers are told to try and begin their stories in action or when something is happening, whereas Stephen King sort of here he kind of asks for a lot of patience, because he's given you a lot of backstory for the characters first. He goes through Jack's struggles, how his relationship with one of the pupils, where he was like a mentor figure to him, but then he assaulted him. And it kind of goes through Jack's relationship with Al Shockley, who is a colleague, and they used to kind of enable each other, go out drinking together, until there was this event where they believed they might have hit somebody with the car while they were drunk. So they kind of swore off drinking after that. And we also see that Jack, he broke Danny's arm when he was on his study at one stage. We get a bit of backstory into Jack's what his parents were like. We know that his father was abusive, and we know that Wendy's mother was emotionally abusive. So we're hit with a lot of backstory for these characters, and we get a bit into Danny's Shining. We see that he keeps picking up on their thoughts, like he's almost like he's a radio. I think it's sort of I wish more books actually started like this, because I sort of get disorientated when books are like starting such in the action before giving like characters to care about. I wish more stories would ask for a bit of patience. It reminds me sort of Breaking Bad. I know that had a little prologue at the start of the episode, the pilot, where it was very fast and exciting, but then it takes you back and it gives you so much character, and it asks you to be patient. And I think that's like a similar opening here. So did you guys like that about the book, that it gave you so much backstory up front, or did you wish it just got onto the story more?
I did like it, but it made me turn on Jack immediately. Like I know you like spoilers, but he's like the antagonist more or less of the book, right? But from the start, I didn't like him. Like as soon as you found out that he broke Danny's arm, I was like, right, you're a bad egg. I don't care how steaming you were. Yeah. But yeah, I did like how the book started. Yeah, and even that just that intro scene where he's talking to what's his name again, the manager of the hotel.
Ullman.
Ullman, yeah, he's talking to him. I really like that. It gives you a good sense of the character, like Jack, and how he puts on this kind of fake persona to get the job and everything. And yeah,
Yeah, I did enjoy like the backstory. I mean, as I sort of touched on, I do think it sort of goes on for nearly like half of the book, the first half. There's quite a lot of backstory, I would say, but I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I suppose, well, I mean, for someone like myself who had never read the book or never watched the movie, my understanding was they're in a hotel and like you don't really actually get going until maybe like a good sort of third, halfway through the book in that regard. Um, so not that it was slow. I still was enjoying it. I still found it quite interesting. I found like the whole sort of arc about Jack's alcoholism and just the anger that sort of caused. I did enjoy that sort of build up and almost sort of foreshadowing in a way. Because you knew sort of once it was sober that that was not going to last. Or at least I had it in my head it was not going to last. But no, I did. I really overall quite enjoyed the first part of this book.
just in something you said there about how like it takes him a while to get to the hotel. I think I preferred that part of the book more, where it was all like talking about has struggles with the alcohol and everything, the family dynamic thing, more so than the like supernatural part of it.
I don't think I would have liked the hotel as much had there not been all that backstory beforehand. I think it was very important.
Yeah, I think that's I was going to touch on this when comparisons to like the movie and the book, but I think that's a big strong point in the book's favor. I would say that that you care about the characters a lot more in the book, and I think that's like different approaches to horror, but by Kubrick and King. But I'll talk about that more when we do talk more about the differences between the book and the movie. Jonathan, what did you think of the opening, all the backstory, everything that we learn about the family and Jack and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the slower kind of start when you're just kind of figuring things out. Like it's sometimes when you're, although I like the fast pace, like sometimes when you're plunged straight onto something, it is hard to follow at the very beginning. So yeah, I don't mind it having a wee slow kind of start and let you get to know the characters and things. I find the stuff about that mostly it focuses on Jack's kind of alcoholism background. But I also I don't even know if Stephen mentioned that in the last episode when he was on about his description of what The Shining was about. But I didn't actually know why it's called The Shining or what Shining was. So the actual kind of introduction, the Danny's kind of side and how he could I was at that stage thinking it was some kind of mind reading ability, but I guess it is. But it's obviously more than that as well. But yeah, I find that quite interesting and definitely a good setup for the book. And yeah, I agree. It was completely necessary. Like if he had just started straight in the hotel without any of that backstory, it wouldn't have been as interesting. Because you kind of, I think the fact that Jack had this kind of backstory of violence and stuff, definitely made him a more interesting character, and it kind of added the suspense that you kind of knew that he was capable of this stuff even before all this weird stuff happens in the hotel. So with the influence of the mad stuff that goes on in the hotel, it kind of makes sense why he went off the rails. But I guess we'll get more into that later.
Yeah, so that kind of leads us on then to the next part here. So we've already talked about Stephen touched on Jack and Ullman. We're talking at the start of the book, and then it flashes back. So he talks to Ullman, who he's the manager of the hotel, and he has this big reverence for the hotel. And Jack, we get a lot of I remember talking last time about Blood Meridian. We talked about how it's not really interior to the characters at all. It's all action and external. And this is the complete opposite. This is all internal, and it's so much on the characters' heads, which is the way Stephen King writes. we get the idea that he thinks he's this smarmy guy, and there's a bit of ego from Jack as well. You can already sense. They're sort of shown around the hotel. They meet Dick Halloran, who is the hotel cook. He takes a special interest in Danny. Asks his parents, can he have a word with him? And he sort of, when he is alone with Danny, he kind of explains this ability that Danny's always had. He tells him about The Shining, which he can communicate and he can sense these things, and he has these abilities. Halloran also takes this interest in the character Tony, Danny's, what his parents term his imaginary friend. So we're told then that Jack's basic role in the hotel is that he's the caretaker. He's going to reset this boiler, take care of the grounds, because the hotel is going to be closed for the winter. Nobody is going to be present. So there's a bit of wish fulfillment in the plot as well, because it's like, also, this is cool. You get this entire hotel all to yourself. But we also kind of, because we know from Danny's point of view that he knows all the dread that's coming, it's kind of this ticking time bomb that we know Jack is right from the start. And he's, I hope you felt the same anyway, but I was very on board with Jack's journey, and I kind of, even though he had such a horrible past, I really wanted him and the family to like get what they were looking for here and repair. And Jack, they kind of say this is their last resort. This is where they're going to sort everything out. But obviously, you know, that is not how this story is going to work out, because we're told that at the beginning from Danny. So what do you guys think of kind of this setup of the hotel and everything, and like what we learn about the Overlook and that Overlook as a setting as a whole, I guess?
Yeah, so I mean, the showing around the hotel and everything, it was definitely building up this big picture of like this, monster of a building that he's going to have to look after, right? And it's definitely trying to build suspense for stuff like the boiler, right, where he's told, he has to do keep it below a certain temperature, or else it's going to blow, basically, right? So that's foreshadowing from the start, right? So I was waiting for that to happen the whole way through, where he just forgets, or somehow he's busy with something else or whatever. But you definitely get a good sense of the scale of the this task that he's been given, and you kind of get a thought how it's going to like weigh on him, sort of thing.
Just to sort of touch on the boiler again, I mean, you say like it's a bit of foreshadowing, but not just for like the hotel likely to sort of burn down, but also I thought it was like a good sort of like a simile metaphor of like
symbolism,
Jack Torrance, symbolism. Yeah. Sorry, of like Jack Torrance. Definitely. Is he going to sort of boil over, meltdown as well at some point? At least that was something I picked up on. As like a nice sort of, as you say, like a bit of symbolism, Michael. I really like the Overlook as a setting for the book. I think it's just such a creepy vibe. They're sort of stuck in this hotel for 6 months at a time. You're snowed in, and just this sort of very, very gradual sort of build up of tension, and what's happening over here, what's happening in this room, why is this door open? I thought it was all like built up really well, and the hotel was a big part of that. I don't think they could have done just that if it was like stuck in a house for 6 months. Would have ran out of things to talk about. But no, I definitely think the hotel was a great setting, and just the outer exterior part of it as well. It gave the idea of being quite vast, quite a lot going on outside it, but like nothing near it at all. Like they're saying 45 miles was it to Sidewinder, I think.
Yeah.
Like very isolated. Quite secluded. It's quite scary in itself, never mind the hotel being haunted.
I was wondering if there was some sort of symbolism or like metaphor to the name of the hotel. Like where it's called the Overlook, and I was kind of thinking, are the parents overlooking something the whole time, like with the kid or something? But don't know if that ever came to anything.
Didn't really ever think about that to be honest.
No, I didn't think I don't know.
I think it's a good way to trap them in as well, like in this hotel where it's so inhospitable outside during the winter. Because part of the thing about a lot of ghost stories is like, well, why doesn't the family just leave? And that's the big thing, that where they physically can't leave after a while. You know, they kind of have their final chance to leave, but Danny, he realizes that this is the only chance for his dad, so he convinces Wendy that it's best to stay. So I think it was a good decision to, you know, trap them where they had no choice.
Yeah, and that's really driven home too, because Jack keeps saying throughout, like, "Oh, this is our like last chance." You know, they have to do this or else they're screwed.
Yeah. What about you, Jonathan? What did you think about like first being introduced to the Overlook and all that part of the book?
Yeah, agreeing with what Jason's saying about just the absolute vastness of the hotel. It's obviously such, not only the isolation, but like it's such a big building that's like there's only 3 of them in it. It's kind of, it's quite scary. Like I think the fact then that, you know, whenever they know where the other 2 people are, like so say Jack knows where Danny and Wendy are, and then like here's, I think, like the elevator starting up or whatever, you're just like, I don't know, it is like a scary thought that like you're completely alone in this hotel, but are you? Like it's such a good setting for it. Like if this was just like, I think a house is like, it's not big enough to like have this like effect of like being so alone. Do you know what I mean? Like even if it's a house in the middle of nowhere, like it's kind of like it's only a house. There's only like so many rooms, whereas a hotel is just it's massive. Like there's so many places like things can hide and things like that. I like the part where Danny speaks with DeCallan too. Like kind of you get more, you kind of find out really what the power is about, and the fact that like Danny's like he kind of, Dick kind of said, more or less realizes he's really like powerful. This like he's got the shine more than anyone else he's ever like met before, but he's just a 5-year-old boy and can barely read words yet and stuff. So it's kind of like that thing where the most powerful person's also like so vulnerable and weak in a way as well, which I think I liked in the story. The fact that, like, you know, say if this was a grown adult with this power that Danny has, like this the book would have been just over, but like, oh, he would have seen common sense and be like, all right, let's not go up to that hotel. But as a child, obviously he was, you know, blinded by all those kind of things, and just obviously wanted his mommy and daddy's marriage to last or whatever. So yeah, I think I kind of liked that whole chapter where Dick speaking with Danny. Yeah,
we get a lot of lore about the Shining as well, which is further expanded on in Doctor Sleep. But in this book, we're told that the Shining, it's not something that just Danny or Dick have. It's out there in the world. There is a percentage of people who have this, and to different degrees. I think even Dick says all mothers shine a little bit. And then he kind of looks at Jack, and he said he's not really sure what Jack has, but I think his comment is Jack has something, but he can't quite pin it down if it is the Shining or if it's some other force within Jack.
You know what I found, I was like kind of bothered about is, you know, at the end, right, where this is kind of spoilers, but Dick's kind of like,
we're on spoilers anyway, so that's fine. Go ahead.
Dick's coming back, right, and like he keeps meeting people that have the shine, and it's like, is this not supposed to be rare? He just keeps coming across people.
They did comment on that, like he himself's like, I normally meet like 4 in a month or something. I've met 2 in the one day. You know, this is a bit ominous, sort of.
Well, yeah. I don't know. It bothered me a wee bit. I was like, come on, just let those 2 have it, and Dick's granny as well.
I kind of like that that so many people have the Shining. It makes it more, in the movie it's treated as this kind of, it's a horrible thing. It's like having the Shining is really scary.
It does sound horrible, to be honest. Like, I mean, can you imagine having to listen to people's thoughts? Like, you have to.
Yeah, and the book, it's sort of, it is horrible at times, but it's also sort of magical in a like Steven Spielberg kind of way, and I like that it's both those things, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're given a insight that Danny has the ability a lot stronger than anybody Dick has ever met before. He kind of gets Danny to communicate something to him, and he's like taken aback by how strong the force is. So Danny is coming into this place that's haunted with this exceptional ability, and we're given the symbolism of like more symbolism in the story of the wasp nest, and it's kind of like the Overlook is the wasp nest. The ghosts are the wasps. They're these hateful images of people. I don't even think they are the people anymore. I think they are just copies of them, and they're this malevolent forces. And Danny being there is like kicking the wasp's nest. He's like alerted them all and made them come out more in a big way, because the presence of the Shining within the hotel is like it just makes it come alive more. So then we start to see more disturbing things, disturbing visions and apparitions appear, and we keep getting red rum over again. It comes into Danny's head. There's these hedge animals who we can see that they start to move. There's a fire hose that like it just extracts itself off the wall and goes after Danny down the hall. So I think the intention is to show that not only are there apparitions within the hotel itself is like a living being. The hotel itself is like an entity. Wendy becomes more concerned that something is wrong with Danny. This is the point that I referenced earlier where they're starting to think of going away from the hotel, but can see that that's not the best thing for the family right now. So it's kind of, again, Wendy is thinking, am I doing what's best for the family, or am I doing what's best for me and Danny specifically? And she chooses the family as a whole entity, but this is a constant struggle throughout this book for her. And during this time, we start to see slowly Jack is becoming ever so slightly more unhinged. He becomes obsessed with this scrapbook he finds that documents the history of the Overlook. It gives us more information with like the mob ties, that there was executions and all these dodgy things that happened throughout the year. What did you guys think of this, where we start to see, that more disturbing things happen within the hotel? And I haven't said about it yet, but we learn about room 217, the most haunted room within the hotel, where the presence is especially evil.
I mean, just on the wasp's nest, right? One thing that struck me about that is that like Jack gives Danny the wasp's nest, right? So it's like, he gives it to him and says something along the lines of, it's fine, they're all dead or whatever. But in fact they're not. So it's like, it's almost like saying the book Danny should be aware not to trust his dad after that point, sort of thing. Because his judgment isn't the best.
But were the wasps not dead at that stage? Like, I was of the sort of understanding that the wasps had been killed, and then through supernatural forces they were sort of alive again. That was what I sort of was picturing at the start, anyways.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair interpretation. I think that it is vague whether or not that happened.
I suppose it's sort of first experience with the sort of potentially supernatural aspect of the hotel, so I didn't really know what to expect. But that was my sort of thinking behind it, was that Jack actually had done it correctly. It's just
it's the beginning of the hotel trying to make him question himself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right.
Or maybe it's like, the thing saying your dad's going to hurt you in some way. Yeah. It's going to cause you pain in some sort of fashion.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think both those interpretations are valid. I think it's intentionally kind of vague about the wasp's nest for that reason, that it is supposed to be symbolic, and like symbolism isn't meant to say something. It's meant to like allow you to project something onto it. So I think both of those are valid. What about you, Jonathan? What did you think of like this part of the book where stuff starts happening and freaky stuff, and we see that things are alive in the hotel?
Well, first of all, like like if that whole situation with the wasps happened to me, that would have been me out of there. Like I fucking absolutely hate wasps. Like so, like I would have known at that stage that's to get out. Like, do you know what I mean? So this wouldn't have happened to me if I was Danny. Like I would have been gone. Like, no, I mean, yeah, you're kind of getting into like these weird things happen. It's kind of always it's all happening to Danny at this stage, right? So like it kind of, I think, like, because I was conversation with Dick as well, it's like Dick kind of says nothing will hurt you, and then obviously there's a question about room 217, and he's kind of like, I don't go in there, even though he's just told him that nothing can hurt you in this hotel. I still don't go into that room. But yeah, so it's kind of like, you're like, yeah, is this just like, again, you fully don't really understand like what's going on here. So like, kind of thinking, is this just Danny for, like, having these mad visions or something like that, or is these things actually like a part of this hotel? So is it part of the hotel or is it part of Danny? At this stage, like, obviously I didn't really know. But yeah, I definitely find it interesting. And yeah, it's more like disturbing, like the wasps and stuff like that. It's more like disturbing things happening as opposed to scary. So, yeah, I wasn't too like worried or anything about this stage. Like, you know, I like, see, for the film, like at the minute, like I like love like Alone Monday to Friday, and then like my housemate comes back during at the weekend. So like I kind of waited to watch it at the weekend with him to watch the movie. But like obviously now I know like I probably could watch it by myself, but I think like most of the stuff in the movie is more on the disturbing side of things. And like this is kind of like, yeah, I think like for me, to be honest, the wasp thing was probably the most disturbing. Now a question I had about, maybe we can talk about this later, but whenever there's more, but like about like the ghosts and the spirits and stuff that you see there, whatever they are they like supposed to be people that have died in the hotel, or is it just like random people? Or
I think it's supposed to be people who have died.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Or are there even ghosts?
I think what Stephen is saying too, I think that's another difference in the book and the movie. I think Kubrick wants you to like maybe think might be in Jack's head, whereas I think the book takes a more definitive stance on it, that there is something supernatural going on. Is my interpretation of the two things anyway. I think Kubrick is more like, is this all imaginary? Is this just a man going mad?
Like, I think like the suspense for me then came from kind of like, you know, Dick Halloran telling him that nothing can hurt you, and it's like, do I trust what he said because he knows about this shining business, or is that the whole, like, is it supposed to be the book trying to trick you and they believe in him, and then actually no, it can hurt you? Like I don't really, this is kind of where I got the, but like what is going on like here? This is kind of where the real feelings of kind of the questions, I would say, started to arise for me.
This is where I really got hooked into it as well, I would say. So around this stage, maybe slightly just after, but it's definitely when the book definitely started getting its claws into me.
Yeah, I was definitely questioning whether it was like there was a supernatural presence, or if Jack was slowly going insane and Danny was like already traumatized from, like, you know, his dad beating him and all, right? I was wondering because like some things happen and it's from Danny's perspective, right? And then he tells his parents about it, but the parents never see it. So like, did he sort of managing it or not? Is what I was trying to work out.
Yeah, because all the initial scares are from Danny's POV. It's only slightly later that we start to see them from Jackson.
It's towards the end where all these, they've seen, inverted commas, all these things happen to Danny, right? Where they're starting to now question reality themselves, and Jack for sure starts seeing like hallucinating people in the bar, right? But Wendy starts to do it a bit as well, where she, like, I think she speaks to them and sees people dancing and stuff at certain stages. But I mean, at the same time, there was too many like coincidental things between the characters where they were like on their own, like they all seen these people in the ballroom, right? So I don't know. It was something I was going over though. I was waiting for the reveal that they were all insane.
I think like Jack kind of like when he first sees paranormal things too, he kind of gaslights himself.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he's denying it to Wendy, but in doing that, he's kind of also denying it that these things happen to himself.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I think he absolutely loves it anyway because it's an excuse to drink. Like, I don't actually know if he is drinking or like, is he imagining that he's drinking? Like, it's because obviously there's no bartender there, or it's like a spirit or whatever.
Talk about that part of the book then. I'll just give that a brief intro because that is the next part here. So Danny wanders into room 2107. He's strangled by a corpse. He has these bruises. Wendy and Jack see the bruises. Wendy accuses Jack. This kind of exacerbates the distrust between Wendy and Jack, which puts Jack further into his spiral. He wanders into the hotel ballroom. He sees that the bar is full of liquor, even though it was completely dry at one stage, and there's now a bartender called Lloyd. He converses with Lloyd, gets martinis poured for him, and then all of a sudden there's this ball. The ballroom is full, and after several drinks, Jack is confronted then by Delbert Grady, who was the former caretaker, who we were told that near the beginning of the story that he murdered his family, chopped them up into little bits, I believe was how it was phrased. And Grady urges Jack to correct his wife and son, and Jack agrees that they need discipline, they need to be set right, and so kind of that was what you were talking about, Jonathan. That scene there, you're just saying, was there drink, was there not? I think it's very interesting that he didn't just find a bottle. He's drinking empty glasses, and he starts to feel hungover. He starts to feel drunk. And I was wondering for a long time, why was that decided instead of him just finding alcohol and caving? Because if the theme is that Jack is an alcoholic, surely that could have been conveyed with him just finding drink and caving in.
Yeah. And
I think the reason is that this is more because these themes are about more than alcoholism. I think it's about the thing that is broken in Jack, that he's been trying to fix with drink, that he's not wanted to confront. And I think like this isolation, instead of removing him from all that, it's left him with nothing but confrontation to that brokenness. And that's what the hotel is prodding on and poking on and trying to ignite. But that was my interpretation of why there was no alcohol in that scene. But what did you guys think of that part of the book where Wendy accuses Jack, and then we have the ballroom scene, which in my opinion was one of the best scenes?
Yeah, so as I say, this is the part where like things really sort of picked up for me. Just that sort of the period beforehand where Jack is sort of seeing like the hedge animals sort of chasing after him like that. That for me was like, I was actually sort of quite tense. I find that quite scary. But again, it's this sort of slow descent into madness. And I know, like, obviously we're not supposed to like Jack. You know, he's abused his child, he's abusive to his wife, maybe not physically, but in other ways. But I do find like the first sort of, up until this point, I do think Jack was really trying to redeem himself.
Yeah.
I do think he actually was quite caring. I do think he was trying his best. You know, he was off the drink for a few years, and even like sort of went like Jack's sort of internal monologue is always like, she's never going to let that go. She's never going to let that go. Which, interestingly, you're also not letting go, Stephen. Like, you're still bringing up how he's abused his son, despite him.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a big sticking point. Like, he broke his
Oh,
son's arm.
I would agree.
As
with
a
you,
father,
like
that sticks with you.
this is written back in the fucking 70s or 80s.
Rob's cool then. That's fine then. Yeah.
Beat
That's
anything
why
at that
that's
stage.
that's why that scene in It is okay as well.
Oh God.
In 8?
In It.
We'll talk about that another time when we cover that.
Talk about that next year.
Doing it as. So yeah, I thought like this part was really just when the hotel like sort of got its grasp on Jack and was finally able to sort of take over and sort of, well, I think like possess him almost. I think this is when they sort of were finally able to sort of take over. He sort of lost the fight he couldn't sort of fight against the hotel anymore. Like the hotel was trying to fight him, got him drunk. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But Jack was believing he was drunk, and that was what sort of lost him that fight.
Does the fact that then, like, so as kind of a question first, does the fact that like Jack can see all this going on around him, does this mean that he can shine as well? Or like, would anyone, even the person that can't shine that is in this hotel, could see this stuff going on? Because I know the mum sees stuff as well, but like Dick Halloran said that every mum kind of shines a bit. So like, is Jack, can he like shine? Is that what you guys think is going on here, or do you think he's just seeing this stuff as well?
I think it's more of like a possession type thing with him. You know?
Because I was wondering, the reason I was thinking about this is because like, it's his like whole drinking, the reason he's had this mad tough life, and like, you know, his dad obviously, there's troubles with his father, and then stuff now. Like, is it because of this ability to shine is causing this, and like he's like kind of not really either learned to control it, or like he's seen some mad stuff or whatever, he's had some weird thoughts because of this. So obviously, like, you know, the stuff that Danny's like seeing now when he's 5 years old, it's going to mess him up in the future. Like, is the same thing happen to Jack, or like, do we know, like, does Jack even have an actual drinking problem, or does he just always imagine that he's drinking? Like is he just an absolute lunatic because of this ability?
Yeah, I think that's a really good interpretation. I've never really thought about that. Like, I think it's kind of like what Dick said. Jack has something. There's something on Jack, but he's just not sure what it is. As regards to can only people who shine see the presences? I don't think that's the case, to be honest. I think like all these sightings that have happened in 217 and all, I don't think everybody who's seen something can shine. It's just my interpretation of it. I think that anybody can see something and overlook, but it's the presence of the shining that makes that they kind of feed on and become stronger.
Well, that's interesting. Is it maybe because Dick Halloran's there? I think during the rest of the year, the people, and he's not as powerful with the shine as Danny is, that like some people see things sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I think if a small percentage of people have it, that means there are going to be guests who have the shining every now and then, who have some extent of the shining, and who are bringing these things out.
What about then this 217? Because this all kind of happens like where Danny goes on and gets like strangled and all, or 2107 or whatever the room number is.
217. 217.
217. Is this corpse like in there, or is this again just a vision of some woman that's like died? Because like, say like, so in the movie, maybe getting into the kind of comparing of the movie territory here, but in the movie it's kind of like when Jack Nicholson, or the actual Jack Torrance goes on, it's like he goes on and sees like a good looking woman, like a naked good looking woman, and like dances with her, and then it's like she turns into a corpse then at some stage. Like, so is it actually just like a vision, or is there like a dead body actually in this place? Like, how does Danny get those actual like physical bruises on him?
I think it's a ghost. Like,
so it's just like
bruises.
Yeah. So why is it just because
Revenant or something?
Yeah, because this woman like killed herself or something like that. She's like a bad ghost, because like, you know, all the other ghosts are like just dressed as like fancy ballroom guests or whatever. They're like all nice, not like they're not trying to kill people essentially. Whereas this one is just like a bad ghost because probably of the nature of her death or whatever.
Danny strangled himself, boys.
The stuff in the ballroom I thought was, yeah, it's quite good. It's actually, again, I don't know if it was because I watched the movie like not after I'd read the book, but kind of when I was at this part in the book as well. It's just when it happened to be that I was able to watch the movie. But I think just like, you know, when like Jack's character goes up to the bartender, it's just like he kind of already knows him. He's just like, you know, sort him out loud. It's like, you know, when you're always best friends with a barman, even though you don't know each other. I thought that's kind of like a funny, like stereotypical like interaction with a barman. And yeah, that the scene then in the bathroom, or that's what it is in the movie, and like in the book, I'm not sure if it's even said where it is, but when he's talking to that previous caretaker, and this is where more questions come up when he says, Jack's kind of asking him, weren't you the previous caretaker who like killed his wife and kids or whatever? And he's like more or less I'm you or something like that, or like the caretaker's always been you or something like that. Like I was so confused here, like, but like in a good way I was confused. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like where I'm lost. It's more like I'm just like it hurts my head to try and process it. But like, what do you think? Yeah, is going on?
I think that's his way of saying it was your destiny to end up here. And I think I think the hotel is manipulating Jack there, because this is a guy who he wants so much to be important. I think that's what he's like. He hates this menial job that he's working. He just wants to be important. And then the caretaker is saying to him that you were always the caretaker. You were always meant to be here in the hotel. This big important person. This ball is all for you. Everything's for you. And then he's enraged at the idea of them wanting Danny, because how could Danny be more important than him? So I think that's where a lot of the anger comes from.
Like what I actually thought was going to happen here, and I actually still kind of thought it near the end too, like where I can't even remember if this bit's in the book, but you know, whenever in the movie is like picture is like on the wall and it's like Jack's in the picture from like 1920 or something like that.
That's definitely
That's not the book. That's
that's the movie. So
yeah.
But what I thought was actually going on, like I thought there's some weird kind of time loop here going on. It's like Jack was that previous caretaker, and it's just he's like living this endless loop of being the caretaker at this hotel and going through this torment. That's what I was like thinking then at this stage.
Yeah, I think that was
that's what
Kubrick
the
trying to
movie-
like
tie it in.
Groundhog Day.
Like, you know, he put the picture in to make it look like Jack was a ghost
Yeah.
from the start. Yeah.
I would say that's not what the book's trying to do.
That's
Although
I
there
prefer
is-
that, but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I'd say that there probably is like an element of time travel, but I think we jumping ahead a little bit.
There is time travel in this
But
book.
I don't want to say, because we're not just quite there yet. But
Okay, maybe I'll answer us in a bit then.
So the next part, Jack, after he goes up with the intention of disciplining them, he attempts to strangle Wendy in the bathroom. She uses a glass bottle to hit Jack over the head. Together, Danny and Wendy, they drag Jack's unconscious body to the pantry. They lock him inside. Grady shows up again. He lets Jack out of the pantry. This is where I think Stephen King is saying definitely what's happened is supernatural. It's not in Jack's head. I think he takes a definitive stance within the book on it. So after he promises to kill Wendy and bring his son basically to the spirits of the Overlook. So this is where, you know, the big climax comes then. Jack, this time he gets a roque mallet. Famously in the movie it's an axe, but it's a roque mallet in the book. He goes after Wendy with it on the stairs. She stabs him in the back with a kitchen knife. He's constantly going after her. She locks herself in the bathroom. Jack uses the roque mallet to smash in the door, let himself through. Wendy cuts him. Meanwhile, we're getting like this story from Halloran's perspective, where he receives a psychic call for help from Danny. We can see that Halloran, he's like making his way to the hotel through plane rides. This is when he encounters, as Stephen was referencing, all these different people with The Shining. He gets set upon by the hedge animals when he comes onto the Overlook, and then Halloran makes it inside. He's gravely injured by Jack, who attacks him with the roque mallet. Again, another difference from the book. He dies in the movie. In the book, he is just horrifically injured. So this is just before. Well, I'll leave another part for the end. What are you guys thinking at this point and about
I
this
really
part
like
of the book?
Halloran's story where we follow him on his journey.
really,
For some reason, I really enjoyed those parts. But yeah, I mean, everything else that's going on. This is where it really started picking up for me. Yeah, yeah, I was enjoying all the violent parts. Were like, to me, something exciting was happening. You know.
I found Halloran's little journey to the hotel a bit. I probably took away from the tension a little bit for me, actually. I still like overall, I really enjoyed this section of the book, but I did find the sort of Halloran bits were just like sort of you build up the tension, and I know the tension's still there while you're sort of
He's
listening to Halloran getting there. But I just thought, like, just let him show up. You know, I don't need to know how he gets there. But yeah, no, I find this bit really good. I noticed a few differences. Like everybody knows the movie. I hadn't seen the movie at this stage. I was sort of thinking, okay, so does he say here's Johnny? I didn't think he did, but I didn't think he did, but I was like, he doesn't have it. I actually has the mouth.
I've got a list of all the differences, and I will go through them after when we finish our book portion of this.
Like, even I was sort of thinking, like, I knew about the twins. Well, it does mention about the twins in the book. Like, the twins are still.
Yeah, they're mentioned, but you don't see them.
They're mentioned, you don't see them. Yeah, and like the elevator of blood. I was sort of, is that going to happen? Is that? But yeah, I quite enjoyed the sort of chase from Jack. Even the sort of part where they had him locked up, it was still quite like, what are they going to do? They can't really just sit in this hotel for the next 4 months or whatever it is.
Yeah, I was really tuned in when they locked him in the pantry or whatever it was. I was like, how is he going to get out of here? right enough, how is he going to get out of here? And then, like, ghosts get him out. And I was wondering, maybe there are ghosts.
Yeah, so you're coming around to the ghosts.
I was coming around to it then, because there was no other. I couldn't explain it any other way.
You know what's bad whenever you need to use ghosts to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the fantasy version of we solved it with magic.
Yeah.
Ghost.
Yep, ghost did it.
No,
Or maybe Jack used his shining powers to, you know.
Nah, now you're getting back on it, Stephen. What about you, Jonathan? What were you feeling this portion of the book?
Yeah, obviously, but it's probably the most exciting part, the whole chase and basically help Jack becoming, like, more or less trying to kill him. I mean, you know this is going to happen from the very start, obviously, and like the whole thing with the other caretaker having gone mad and killed his wife and kids, like, it's all foreshadowing for this, and you know what's going to happen, but it's still quite tense. And like, although I think obviously this is quite a famous book and movie, and I've heard of bits and pieces, and Stephen practically summarized it all last. Like, I didn't know how it ended, so I didn't actually know what was going to happen here. I don't know if you want to talk about this in the differences part of what you have written down, or like in the movie obviously says here's Johnny. Like, who the hell is Johnny? Like,
Yeah.
like, who is Johnny?
A reference to something, but
I think it's a reference to like a game show or something, or something like that.
But like, why?
And it was like it was an improv line. I don't know, like maybe on this show Johnny just appears and he says here's Johnny, and then Jack Nicholson just riffed on
Apparently
that.
it's an imitation of Ed McMahon's intro for the Tonight Show.
There we go.
I thought, yeah, 'cause obviously that's only in the movie then, because when it wasn't in the book I was kind of a bit confused then. But like, when I watched the movie, I seen that bit in the movie before I read the part in the book, or listened to the part in the book, and I was thinking, is this like Johnny, like another form, you know? Like, I was thinking, like, my thought process was all down this like time loop thing. So I was thinking, is this a previous version of him? Like, is Johnny like?
You read?
Do you mind?
Way too much into that one line.
You really overthought that.
Oh no, this book had my
Just
head
a
on bits.
random throwaway line.
Yeah.
In the movie.
So
In the movie.
yeah. But you know what? I think any book that can kind of spark your imagination like this is a good book. So, but no, I really enjoyed this part of the book. Just to summarize.
Yeah. So after Halloran is attacked, we see Jack pursuing Danny, and Danny is wandering the halls. He's following Tony's voice. Tony, who's helping him, and this is where it's revealed that Tony is basically Danny from the future. He's Danny shining back to himself, sending these warnings about these forthcoming events. This is what I believe Jason was referring to with the time travel thing.
Yeah.
It's your kids, Danny. Something's got to be done about your kids.
So we Jack corners Danny, and Danny is kind of thinking this isn't his dad, not this Saturday night shock horror with its rolling eyes. And he sees like a false face for a moment. Jack recovers some control and he tells Danny to run. So it's kind of like, it's this kind of bittersweet thing where Jack does conquer it, but only momentarily, only enough to do right by his family. He can say, he can just about tell them to run. That's all he can really do. That's the last bit of autonomy he has. Then we have this thing where Jack turns the roque mallet, he turns it onto his own face and destroys it, which I think I take to mean that the hotel is showing your father is dead now. It's all the hotel. I'm just obliterating the last of Jack Torrance.
Also, just on that, I took that to mean, this goes back to something I said about the start of the book, where he puts on this like fake persona, right, when he gets the job and everything. And when he does the teaching and everything, he's kind of like the real Jack has come out now, sort of thing. You know, the alcoholic, monster, basically.
That is actually was my interpretation the first time I read this, but I sort of flipped on it this time. But I think it could be either. Yeah. So Danny suddenly remembers what his dad had overlooked. That they overlooks the unstable boiler that he's supposed to check all the time. He's supposed to constantly check it. Has not been checked in several days, and that it's gonna blow. Wendy, Halloran, and Danny flee the hotel together. For a second, we have the notion that he has stopped it in time. He stopped the boiler. No, he didn't. The Overlook blows up. Halloran, Wendy, they all ride away on the snowmobile. We have a short epilogue then where Halloran is like now a father figure to Danny, and although Danny misses Jack, he's you get the sense that he has some peace in his life anyway. It ends with Halloran, Wendy, and Danny watching Rainbow Fish. So, what did you guys think of the ending of this book? Then this last portion.
Just before I get into it, I want to talk about Tony a bit more. Like, is it outright said that he's Danny from the future? Like, I must have missed that part. I know the bit where, he speaks to him and tells him about the boiler and everything, but is it outright said that he's...
So I think Danny's middle name is Anthony.
Yeah, but, I mean, okay, but he's presented as an imaginary friend, right? And so that's like a subconscious part of Danny, so,
Yeah, but is it
Doctor
shedding
says that.
purge?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but... I'm just asking the question. Was it outrightly said?
It is. It's. I don't have the. I was looking to see if I could get a paragraph for you, but it's. It was somewhere. Something about that this sense that was come back to him was himself and the years to come or something like that. It is vague, so you could potentially interpret as being metaphorical.
Yeah, because why does he show himself bad things, like before the hotel?
Warnings.
Yeah, but like it obviously doesn't work, and he should know that it doesn't work because.
Why? Like he's loved this before. Does that mean now that Tony or Danny is now in like 10 years' time going to be like, oh fuck's sake, I have to go back now and show Danny all these mad signs because he's a wee idiot. He's 5, like. Do you know what I mean? Time travel's like stupid, I think sometimes.
Well, it's a bootstrap paradox,
well,
right?
Yeah,
because...
we would be getting onto a big debate about. Time travel here, and Dr. Sleep is there, so you can read that book if you want. But I really recommend the movie. It's a great movie, and Mike Flanagan directs it. Yeah,
without getting into it, like it's a bootstrap paradox where he because he's loved it, then he time travels to tell himself about it, but because he's time traveled to tell himself about it, then he knows.
Unless there's like only 2 timelines where there's timeline A and timeline B. And timeline A, just horrific things happened and he had no warning.
I see.
So then timeline A, Danny is like, I better give timeline B, Danny, a heads up. So the timelines are 2 different things. That's the way I would explain time travel.
It's the Dragon Ball Z
it doesn't make
travel,
sense.
Explanation.
Yeah.
But isn't the rule of time travel that when he tells them then in timeline B about these warnings, that then creates new timelines, in which case all the possibilities and the timelines start splitting, which is how you end up with so many timelines.
Yes.
Look,
well, that could also happen, but
he was on a lot of coke. That's not overthinking.
So apart from the Tony thing, then Stephen, what did you think about the end of the book?
I like the end of the book. I like when Halloran shows up and just saves the day.
But did Halloran save the day, or did the Jack Torrance redemption arc happen?
No, definitely.
He saved the day
absolutely
by
not.
smashing
Killing
his own
himself.
face out and letting him flee.
No, I don't think. No,
I think he did.
He's got a lot of love for Jack.
What can I say? Love me an alcoholic dad.
Okay. No, I really like the end of the book. I like the whole the suspense part when where the dad is coming for them, and then he kind of backs off to go sort out the boiler, and it's like, is he going to get there in time? Does it even matter? Because they're probably going to get away anyway, sort of thing. And yeah, the end of the book I really enjoyed it compared to the rest of the book, except for Halloran's journeys.
Yeah, I mean, all I really wanted to say was that I thought that was the Jack Torrance redemption arc, was that sort of, he had his struggles, he fought against the hotel, hotel overcome him. He sort of broke free of that once he was like about to kill Danny and stopped it and let Danny flee, which gave him enough time to get away, because then also the hotel had to go and try and save the hotel. So like without Jack stepping in and buying Danny that time, Danny would have been killed. The hotel might have got the shining powers, which is what they sort of wanted, I believe. So yeah, I do think it was Jack Torrance is like a bit of a tragic hero. At least in our show.
I wouldn't go that far.
Bit of a tragic hero.
Yeah, I think he's definitely I would say he's a more complex character than an outright villain. There is some redemption and his ending. What about you, Jonathan? How did you feel about the end of this book?
Yeah, I mean, I agree there with you saying about the redemption arc. That's. I mean, yeah, it doesn't excuse what he did before, but I think it's kind of like this last week. Yeah, like I couldn't like be the dad that I should have been, but at least I can. At this moment, this is all I can do to kind of at least give him a chance in the rest of his life. So I did like that kind of little small redemption part. The Halloran part, like Halloran seemed a bit useful. I know he kind of helped him get away, but he also got like badly hurt too. Like he done do an amazing job. Like
I was joking when I said he came on and saved the day, but
yeah, it's even more. It's egregious on the movie, because he just gets axed straight away.
He just get killed
straight away.
Oh,
it's like, what was the point of him showing up there?
Yeah. Yeah, like Stephen, the whole Tony arc thing, I don't really get that at all in terms of the time travel thing. I just thought that when they talk about earlier in the book, they're talking about that he'll grow out of it and stuff like that. I thought that was just more or less like Tony was more or less kind of like another one of these ghost kind of things, but maybe like a child version of them, so that it like related with Danny. That's kind of what I was thinking, but I don't really think too much about it, to be honest. I mean, yeah, the ending was quite satisfying. Like, see, I think we'll talk about it in a minute, but compared to the movie, like, I honestly did not enjoy the movie. Like, the movie was quite shit.
I really want to talk about the movie, but we'll get on to it next.
Yeah, it's like when we talk about.
I didn't watch.
But like,
that's okay, Steve.
No, we'll need to wrap the movie. Like.
No, I forgot.
But the ending, I think, was a lot more satisfying. Like, because obviously then I'd watched the movie before I'd read the end of the book and seen the ending in the movie, and was a bit disappointed. And then I was happy that the book kind of had this extra stuff and like more happened in the end. So yeah, I thought the ending was quite satisfying, and yeah, although like it's an ending of they kind of get away. It's got that thing where Danny, I think Halloran is talking to Wendy at the end, kind of like, is he going to be alright? And it's like, I think he will be. So they're still kind of messed up from the whole trauma of this, but there's kind of hope. But you never know, unless I guess in Doctor Sleep we talk about it. But yeah, in terms of this book, like it's kind of just ends on that. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, so strangely,
was also sorry, I say Doctor Sleep was written about 40 years later, was it not?
Yeah.
So
It was written a long time later. It was written in 2013, so yeah.
But yeah, I think I read somewhere that he had the idea for it for a long time or something.
Yeah. I loved this ending as well. I thought it was a really satisfying ending, and it was really warm ending despite all the horrific things that happened. There was a lot of hope, and there was redemption for a character who might have seemed irredeemable, and we'll get on to that because I think that discussion actually ties a lot onto the movie as well. But are you guys okay if we jump on to talk about the movie then? Because I've been dying to talk about it this whole episode, and I don't want to make the whole book discussion about the differences between the movie. I was trying to keep it on the book, but now we can talk about the book and the movie.
What about? Do you want to do the star rating and the narrator and stuff first, and then go on to the comparison, the other media, and then talk about the movie there?
I think it fits nicely into that. Yeah.
Okay. All right then. We'll do star rating first then. And since we haven't touched on the narrator, give a wee word about the narrator when you're doing your wee summary here. So, we'll go to Stephen. I've called on you a lot, and I'll leave you to the middle this time. So we'll go to Jason first there. Jason, if you want to give your star rating.
Yeah. So I really said at the start I really liked this book. I really liked this book. The narrator was quite good. I thought he sort of captured. I thought how he sort of played about the voices, especially in like regards to like Jack Torrance and like the hotel haunted or possessed Jack. You know, I thought he did enough with his voice to sort of portray the emotions. And there's times like I actually jumped a bit because of like how loud he shouted. Once or twice that definitely happened. But yeah, I really like this book. I don't know why, I would love to say it's a masterpiece. I would love to say 5 out of 5, but there's just I don't know if it was just like there's just something that's just sort of keeping me away from that five stars out of 5. So I think I'm going to have to give it 4.5.
Do you think it was Grady has convinced you?
I don't know. Nice. I think it was maybe just that sort of. While I still enjoyed the opening section, I still just thought maybe slightly too long.
Right. Yeah, that's grand. We'll go on to John. I was actually going to do Stephen Muddle, so we'll go on to Stephen. Sorry, next.
Okay, just a nice wee rating sandwich. Is that what you're looking for, Michael? We touched on it already, but I'm gonna give it like a 2.5. I thought it was just okay. Like it's definitely listenable. And I did enjoy the narrator. At the start I got the sense that I wouldn't like it because I thought he was going to be monotone because the first two characters kind of are like that, right? But then when he got into it a bit more, and like Jason said, he's playing about with voices and everything. I really warmed to him. So I like the narrator. The book was just okay. I think definitely, like I said, listenable, but it was leaning towards more boring for me to give it higher, I think.
Yeah. No worries. Jonathan?
Really enjoyed this book a lot more than I thought I was gonna. Narrator was grand. I think we always say this, unless it's like Stephen Fry or somebody, he did a good job. Wasn't anything absolutely amazing, but wasn't terrible. But yeah, like I thought he did a grand job. Nothing really much else to say about him. So I think, Michael, at the start you did already guess what I was going to give this, and I'll stick with it. So I'll give this a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I guess this was my recommendation. I recommended one of my favorites, so I'm just going to come right out and say it's one of my 5-star books. I think it is a masterpiece. I think it's my favorite ghost story. I think it's one of the best ghost stories ever written. I've read a lot of ghost stories. I think it gets everything right, but I think that the best thing about this book is the characters. I think Danny, Wendy, and Jack are so richly written. I think that is Stephen King's superpower. His characterization is so good. It's so strong. It's like he has to characterization what like somebody like Tarantino is the dialogue, in my opinion. He sometimes, people can have the issue where he goes a bit too far. He goes a bit too in depth, and it annoys some people the way Tarantino's dialogue does that to some people. But if it's your jam, you absolutely love it, and this is 100% my jam. I think his characters are so three-dimensional. They feel so real, and his thesis on horror is always to get you to care about the characters first and foremost, and I definitely care about these characters. So that is why I'm giving it a 5 stars out of 5.
Maybe that's where he failed for me, because I did, except for Halloran.
Did y'all like Danny?
No, I didn't like Danny. Definitely didn't like Wendy. I thought like if she should have got out of there when he broke Gawain's arm. If it was me, I would have been away.
Right. I have a list here. 10 differences between the book and the movie, courtesy of Watch Mojo, the YouTube channel. Went through it just to remind myself of all the differences. I'm gonna just list them one after another. Then we can talk about. Give me your general thoughts about the changes in the movies, just in a wee summary. So, one difference here is the roque mallet instead of the axe. Another difference was in the movie it's a hedge maze instead of the hedge animals. In the movie, the room that is most haunted is room 237 instead of room 217, and the reason is because the real hotel that this was filmed in, the Timberlane Lodge, there was no room 237 in that hotel, and they didn't want anything associated with their room 217 where people wouldn't want to stay in it or anything.
Aren't hotels supposed to be like really superstitious? So like, isn't there like supposed to be like no like floor 13 on like hotels and stuff?
Yeah. Another difference, this was mentioned during the show, but there's the "Here's Johnny" line that is not in there. "Come play with us, Danny," that the twins say isn't in here. Some of the really iconic things from the movie aren't actually in the book. Like the "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy" as well. That big, written on all those pages. Tony is a lot more involved in the book, and we learn that he's Danny from the future, or we established that maybe it is him in the cinema.
I checked that it does say that he tells him.
It's a complete mystery in the movie. Movie Wendy, she's very, very passive. She feels very not the character that she is in the book. The book, Wendy feels like this stronger force, this protective mother. She and I thought Danny I don't think his characterization was great in the book. The movie either. It was mostly just shots of his face looking scared at his vision, and
yeah. Well, I would say I liked him in the movie. Did I did like him.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard that the actor didn't know he was in a horror movie, so like he only shot his scenes.
Yeah, they showed him a different cut of the movie. Also Jack. I think Jack is a much better, more layered character within the book. We learn more about his past, his abusive father, his struggle against himself, that he is fighting these demons. He's not succumbed to them. Stephen King takes massive issue with this, that he says, I think the quote is, "Jack is crazy as a shithouse bat," or something like that in the beginning of the movie, where you get the sense that he's actually struggling and wrestling against that in the book, whereas he's just kind of already a bit unhinged in the movie from the start. Halloran doesn't die in the book. He dies immediately upon entering the Overlook. When he goes to rescue them, he gets axed, and the ending, as Jonathan has touched on this, the hotel blows up in the book. It's this kind of triumphant thing where the Overlook is kind of defeated. In the film, Jack chases them through the hedge maze. Danny goes over his own tracks to kind of get Jack lost, and Jack just freezes in the movie. He's found dead, frozen. So I just wanted to run down that quick. Give me a quick summary, guys, of what you thought about the difference between the movie and the book, how you felt about the movie, and then I will go on my rant.
I didn't watch the movie. I forgot. In fact, I didn't forget. I just didn't have time.
Was it required? Was it required view?
No, I wanted to though. I did want to, but I just didn't.
It's a big club.
I have strong opinions about this.
I think
first of all, the high level summary. The movie was shit. Like compare, like I know this movie is like supposed to be so iconic and stuff like that, and there is obviously very famous scenes out of it. And see the scene at the end where he's frozen, like that there is like a meme I've seen all the time, and I did not know that was like him. Like that scene's actually quite funny. But yeah, just the differences, like especially like when I watched the movie when I was only about a third of the way through the book, and like thought the movie was, I was like, I wasn't as good as everybody says. Kind of, I was just kind of very middle of the table about it. But now that I've read the whole book, I'm actually like, that movie did not do a good job of representing how good this book is. Like it's annoyed me. Like, I think the Dick Halloran part, just getting killed straight away, stupid. I think the ending is so satisfying in the book because of this whole blowing up, and they just completely removed that. And then had this like weird thing which again confused me to this whole time warp thing that by putting Jack into the picture frame at the end of the movie. So like I think whenever we read something online about that, was that people were saying that it's supposed to be like Jack getting he's part of the hotel now because he's died there essentially. So like the next people that come along now, Jack's going to be one of the ghosts. Yeah, the whole maze thing was a bit stupid. Like I thought it was it was dissatisfying. Like how Jack he gets lost in the maze and freezes to death. Like it just is not satisfying at all. Yeah, I mean, my mouth's getting sore here, so I'll let someone else talk about it. But I did not like the movie at all.
I dug the passion.
Yeah. Time for my rant. I will say I liked the movie. I don't know if we want to be promoting drugs on this channel, but I had smoked a bit of grass beforehand. So I did. I quite enjoyed the film. Really got into it. First time watched the Kubrick film. Loved some of the shots. Yeah, I've never watched a Stanley Kubrick film. So like all those shots, like following oh my god, I forgot his name, Danny, like on the tricycle, like that was just like brilliant camera work. I really liked it.
Yeah, the tracking shot through the hallways, it kind of
yeah, and like again, it's that tension. I was nervous. I was like, what's he going to come across this corner? You know, I thought it actually worked quite well as a horror film. What I would say, it is the most bare bones adaptation of The Shining. It is.
Yeah.
I would argue probably not even an adaptation of The Shining. It's just taking the location and the characters' names and the tiniest bit of story. I don't think it's a good adaptation. I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's a good adaptation of The Shining. But no, I would happily watch the film again. Don't get me wrong, but I was going in and expecting something else. And like I'd watched it after finishing the book. I just watched it the weekend there, and yeah, it was. Whilst I had a really good time, it was not The Shining.
Yeah,
Do you know what I don't like about the movie as well? Sorry, yeah, come back on. See the way the wee boy or Danny doing the whole finger thing when he's representing Tony. Like, what the hell is that about? Oh jeez! Like me and my housemate now do that to each other. Like it's like, oh, we want to play a game of FIFA. Like Dan will come on and be like, let's play FIFA. Like, but. I was like, why have they done that? Like, surely if they want to do Tony, just do. I know it was the 80s and stuff, and they might not have had good technology to do it, but like, just do some like voiceover, like booming voice, or like something that like looks like it's some voice in his head or something. Like, I don't know what this whole finger thing's about.
Do the thing they did where you get like mirror the image of him, so he's on the other side, and then like I'm saying, you know what I mean?
I have held both of your opinions. The first time I watched this movie, after I read The Shining when I think I was 19, and I loved it, watched the movie, and then I was siding with Jonathan at that stage, thought the movie was shit, as you said, Jonathan, and kind of, we should be aware that Kubrick fans are extremely rabid. They are very passionate. They probably could get us some hate mail, but That was my feelings on the film. Years later, revisited the book The Shining, still loved it, revisited the movie, and I thought, this is, as Jason said, it's almost a different movie, and I kind of appreciated it more for what it was, rather than being angry at it not being a faithful adaptation to The Shining. The character Wendy is atrocious in the movie. I think Stephen King called her the most misogynistic character ever put to cinema. And I think that's a bit of hyperbole, but not completely wrong, that she is extremely passive, extremely submissive, does not challenge Jack ever the way she does in the book. She's just this empty shell in the movie. She's just there to be terrified and to scream.
See, honestly, right, I haven't seen the film, but see, most of the things you're saying is my image of Wendy from the book. Yes, she did challenge him more, but I still feel like she was more of a passive entity.
Well, I agree more with Jason. Jason's idea was to that she is a realistic depiction of somebody who is wrestling with abuse, with like this abusive relation. She's more of a realistic depiction than the Wendy and the movie, who is just this shell, just this reactionary thing. And I felt similar feelings to Danny. I felt like he was just this vessel to tell a story. He wasn't actually a character. And I felt like that away, sort of about Jack too. Stephen King said, I've got the quote here. He says, I feel the same way. So he said, I think The Shining is a beautiful film and it looks terrific. And as I've said before, it's a big, beautiful Cadillac with no engine inside. In that sense, when it opened, a lot of the reviews weren't very favourable, and I was one of those reviewers. I kept my mouth shut at the time, but I didn't care much for it. I feel the same way because of the character Jack Torrance has no arc in the movie. Absolutely no arc at all, he added. When we first see Jack Nicholson, he's in Mr. Almond, the manager of the hotel, and you just know he's as crazy as a shithouse rat. All he does is get crazier. In the book, he's a guy who's struggling with his sanity and finally loses it. To me, that's a tragedy. In the movie, there's no tragedy because there's no real change. And a lot of Stanley Kubrick's fans take exception to that quote, say Stephen King's better because the movie became so massive and such a phenomenon. I just think Stephen King is completely right in what he's saying.
He's
it's just
spot on. Yeah.
And what I've come to now is I do appreciate things that the film does. It is visually amazing. The stuff with the elevator, the blood, those are phenomenal bits of cinema. That's what Kubrick was great at. He was a great visual storyteller, and I think he went the way of ambiguity and atmosphere, and he sacrificed the warmth of the story that the characters brought to it. So he made this great work of art, and it's kind of encapsulated by the ending where Jack freezes. He wanted this cold piece of horror cinema that left you feeling just empty. And I think he did do a good job of. He made good atmospheric horror, but Stephen King's is like this horror with warmth and hope. And I remember hearing on a podcast before this woman who struggled with alcoholism, and she was so angry at the movie because she had overcome alcoholism, and she loved the book because it's this depiction of a man who he's wrestling monsters. He has been a monster in the past, and what The Shining is, it's a story about possible redemption from being the worst kind of person, and how you can slip back into that and still have, you know, moments of humanity within that. And I just feel that's so absent from the movie.
Yeah, like Jack Torrance in the film is just not a nice person either. Like he's already so dismissive of Wendy and Jack, like from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like, there is just no redemption. I know Stephen would probably argue about the redemption arc, but
yeah, to be honest, the things you're saying, I think the opposite. Actually, sorry, not the opposite. I think the same about the book.
Well, I would argue that I'm not saying it's a complete redemption. Like, I'm definitely not saying that we think of Jack as a good person by the end of the book.
No.
I'm just saying that there was some redemption. Like, I'm saying that he tried to do some good. He did some good. He maybe saved his family, you know.
Yeah.
Doesn't make up for what he's done. But
no.
There was something else.
And I'm not don't have the opinion that you think that. I'm just saying, like, I just don't see it. Like, I mean, I don't know. I see. It's actually kind of interesting because all the things you're saying, Michael, about the book, like about Danny and all, and he's just like a vessel for the plot. Those are all the points that I have about the book, which is really interesting. But I don't know why it's, we differ so much.
No, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't feel that way about the book at all. I think the book is, they're complex characters, and Jack is by no means, as Jason says, he's by no means a good person. He's just somebody who has succumbed to these mental demons during his lifetime, and now that he's gone to a place where, when he's finally starting to become somewhat human, these demons are given this physical manifestation, and that's what I think the story is.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't see a redemption arc as just, that's all I'm saying.
I don't think it's like a redemption arc as in.
I think it's just that one act of redemption.
Yeah, it's somebody who just poked their head above water that they were drowning on. It's not somebody who learned to swim. It's somebody who just got this one moment of lucidity to do the right thing for once.
Yeah, because he may have tried to do the right thing in the past, but it just didn't work out for him. But like this time, he succeeded in doing the right thing.
See, I don't know though, if I see, because my depiction of that scene is, like I said before, it's not that he, killed himself, right, or anything. It's that it was kind of the true Jack came out then. Remember, that's what I said before, right? So your point is kind of assuming that he did do that to himself, whereas I have the opposite point, right? So that's the thing.
The demons won out at that stage, is what my...
Yeah.
And that Jack was now the embodiment of the demons.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm right or you're wrong or whatever. I just don't agree.
Can I bring up another point about the movie? Now this is actually... It's a question.
This is going to be our longest episode ever.
It's actually a good thing. It's just one wee small thing. I did like the part, the all work and no play mixed Jack and Dull Boy. I thought like
I was waiting for that the whole way.
So like the fact that he, like, I think he gets on, I don't know how many times he gets on the Wendy about, like, he needs like this, like, see when he's working, she needs to be like away, like freaking leave him alone. He's up here to work and write this book. And then when she goes and reads the book, and it just is lines and lines of all work and no play, mixed Jack and all, it just like really captures the insanity. And I thought that was a good part of the movie. That was
amazing.
Yeah, I really like that, like that part.
A lot of the iconic film things in the movie were good, like the Here's Johnny line and the all working. They were good. Like, they were good changes.
Now I don't understand why that's what he was writing. Is that a reference to something, or like why was he writing that? Is it just this is the thing that you reference now when you say that? But
it's actually like, Google machine.
Where'd that even come from? Like,
yeah,
does it mean anything, or is it just a random line that he just Stanley Kubrick?
I just assumed it was just something he kind of came up with.
Apparently, it's just a proverb: all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, and then he just used it for the film.
Yeah, no, it's I enjoyed that part.
First appeared in James Howell's Proverbs, 1659.
There you
go.
Right, we got a little bit heated during that, but I think that is great. Like that, I think that is.
I don't know if it was heated. Like we just don't agree.
Gee, now you're getting heated about the fact that it was.
Shut
heated.
up, Michael.
It's calm, right?
I don't know if it was heated. Like I'm just.
I think it was heated, Stephen.
I'm trying to get my point across. Just because you love Stephen.
At the very least, it was lukewarm. All
right, it was lukewarm. We got a bit lukewarm there, and I loved it. Right, trivia.
Let's move.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I've got some.
Let me ask this before we get on trivia. So I read something about Stephen King's books where they're all related. Is that a thing?
He does tie things together in his Dark Tower series.
Yeah. That series that I've read some of, he
interesting
brings a lot of other books into that.
He does a big shared universe, and I haven't actually got to the part in the Dark Tower where he connects things together. He apparently makes himself a character in the books as well.
Yeah, I read about that.
Just a whole extra level of meta. But
that character you mentioned from The Stand, whose name I can't remember, I think shows up in the third book.
Okay. Trivia. So, The Shining. This book was inspired. Stephen King had set the.
Johnny have something else to say about the movie, or?
No.
This book was inspired by Stephen King staying a night at the Stanley Hotel, which is actually a famous haunted hotel in Colorado. Stephen King, he stayed the night with his wife Tabitha. They stayed in room 217 in the Stanley Hotel. And Stephen King had a nightmare about his son going through the corridors of the hotel, which was a big inspiration for the setting of The Shining, obviously. Also, another big inspiration of The Shining was Stephen King's own life. He was an alcoholic at the point of writing The Shining. He said that he used to drink a case of beer a night. He said that he was worried about what kind of faller he was going to be, so this was kind of his way of, psychoanalyzing himself and experiencing all his worst fears. He didn't even realize that he was writing about himself. He says he didn't realize it was self-autobiographical until years later, and then he was like, oh, this was about me, but I didn't realize it at the time. So I find that immensely interesting.
That's how fucked up he was at that time. How many sixers he was having a night.
Yep.
Well, I mean, sort of unrelated, but does he not completely forget writing Cujo or something?
Yeah,
he has no memory of writing.
I think The Shining was before his cocaine era. He might have been taking cocaine, but I think he got really into cocaine during Cujo and stuff like that.
It's a hell of a drug.
Hell of a drug.
You don't want any of this.
Turns all your bad feelings into good feelings. It's a night.
Anybody got any additional trivia, or shall I move on?
I think I seen something that Stephen King had actually written the script for the Kubrick movie, but Kubrick turned it down so he could write his own with a different writer.
Yeah, there was a 1997 miniseries, which was apparently a lot more faithful adaptation to The Shining. I've never actually seen it.
I've heard about that. I've heard people say it's actually good, but Danny is terrible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the special effects are just low budget. So
I've seen clips, and it looks okay from what I've seen, but I didn't see any special effects. So that may be why. Yeah.
But no, I think the ones you sort of said already about 237 and 217.
Right. What else are we consuming? Anybody want to go first?
I've been watching working my way through the One Piece live action on Netflix.
How is it?
I'm on episode 6 now. It's quite good. Enjoy it.
See, One Piece is always one of those things that I wanted to get into, but it just looks so silly, and the live action looks even more silly because it's like he's got stretchy body parts or something, but it just looks dumb or something. I don't know.
It is a bit dumb, but it's actually really good. I have enjoyed it. I mean, there must be a reason why the anime is up to 1,000+ episodes at this stage.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying it's a weird one to do a live action of. I thought, I
think it hasn't been that bad. It hasn't been.
Well, that's good.
I think it's worked well.
Maybe I'll give it a watch then. Yeah.
It is good. And I've been watching Ahsoka, which I think I was speaking to you about, Stephen.
Yeah.
I'm saying I wasn't too sure on it, but definitely after the first 2 episodes or so, it really picks up.
Yeah, I saw a few clips. It looks good.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. The last couple of episodes have been really good. Not Andor level, don't get me wrong, but still good. And yeah, just playing a bit of Baldur's Gate 3 when I had time. I haven't played maybe as much this last week, but I was heavy getting into it the week before, putting a lot of time into it.
Where are you at?
I think I've got about 17, 18 hours into it. I'm still in Act 1. I had went on a boat and sailed to this place. Then I sort of travelled back to the Druids because I think I sort of forgot to go back to Helsinki.
Yeah.
So I've had that whole sort of thing. So I've just sort of worked my way through the map a bit. I just killed a hag.
so interesting. Like it's such a good game. Like you've done stuff that I haven't done. Like,
well, there's not much to do. I'm sure.
Yeah. It's great.
I was a hag in that first map or whatever. Like, yeah, brilliant game.
Stephen, do you want to go next?
Yeah, playing a bit of Baldur's Gate. Not a lot though. I've been kind of dipping into a few other things. TV wise, not a lot. I've actually been looking for something to watch, so maybe I'll give the One Piece live action a watch. Kind of dipping back into Dragon Ball. I think I talked about that on a couple episodes ago. About halfway through now. Started watching Beyblade after a conversation we had the other day, and it is terrible. The dialogue is so bad, man. It's like they say things and it just doesn't make any sense, like at all.
No, that makes me want to watch it more.
It's actually kind of funny, like the things they come out with.
It's Beyblade.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. Like some things they come out with, it makes me burst out laughing. But it's not funny. Like it's not supposed to be funny. But yeah,
I was at the pub with my fiance and her friend from work, and like they were chatting. I was like chatting to these lads about Beyblade. And then I was like sort of telling them what I was talking about, and then it was like, I really need to hear the Beyblade song tonight. I just sort of sang it to myself for most of the evening.
You remember, if you can't remember, it's Wonderwall, but before he says maybe, you change that with Beyblade, and it's
said Beyblade.
Yeah, so that's pretty bad. I don't think I'm going to keep going with it, but I mean, it's a nice trip down memory lane. And then the big one for me, is I'm starting to learn Japanese on Duolingo. That's been pretty fun. It's really interesting, just like because been watching some stuff like Dragon Ball and trying to put on the subtitles and try and work, not the subtitles but the actual, like the original dub, to try and figure out like words and stuff. It's quite interesting.
I suppose you've seen Dragon Ball enough as well. You sort of know what they're saying already.
Oh, it's completely different.
Good place to start.
It's completely different. Nah. But yeah, that's just one example. Like other stuff, like I've been looking up like random books and stuff in Japanese to try and read a bit. I don't get very far, but because there's like 3 writing systems and it's really complicated, but it's good. So maybe on future episodes I'll give a wee update how I'm getting on.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool. Jonathan, what are you consuming?
So still rewatching Breaking Bad. On the last episode of the first season. So, absolutely loving it. It's just such a good show. Recently started watching The Sopranos with Kira. So obviously one of the best shows of all time, according to IMDb. So I'm gonna work my way through that. There's a lot to watch. But yeah, I think I'm on episode 3 and it's quite good so far. TV show wise, it is TV shows, but old TV show. Me and housemate started rewatching Drake and Josh, if you remember from back in the day.
Wow.
We just seen it on somewhere and we're just like, let's watch this. I'm literally, it's funny, like there's things people tell me like in work or whatever, and I literally forget them instantly, like what they've just said, but I can remember most of the lines, most of the episodes of Drake and Josh, like freaking nearly 20 years after I've watched them. Like, how is that stuff still living in my brain rent free like it is? It's weird. But yeah, while you're watching that, it's absolutely gacky, like, and stuff like that, but it's just one of them, put it on in the evenings and you can just throw it on in the background kind of. Gaming wise, I have kind of got into playing like old retro, or not even retro, I would say like older games, older PC games that I used to play years ago. There's like websites. The one I use is like old abandonware or something like that. But it's abandonware is basically games that aren't sold anymore. Yeah. So the actual developers or studios don't actually make money from them anymore. So it's like a legal grey area that people are allowed to basically just release the source files or the actual files for you to download, and then if like the company that originally developed it doesn't want that, they can like request to have it taken off. But basically I started with like the original Summons game, and now I've been playing the old Lord of the Rings games.
The class.
So there's they're like still hold up to this day, like but yeah, I've been playing a bit of those. So yeah, that's more or less that's it. Kind of really, I've been listening to some podcasts as well. I've kind of got back into the Always Sunny one, which you kind of like, you watch the videos more. I've been watching Always Sunny, like the episode, and then watching the podcast that is about that episode.
So you're watching along? That's good.
Yeah. So I was watching the podcast, and I was like, I might actually just start watching the show and catch up. So that's what I've done now, and I'm up to where I am, and it's kind of like you watch the episode before you listen to the episode. But to be fair, in that podcast, they don't really even talk too much about the episode. They kind of go off about other stuff, but it's
they start to, and then they kind of go off other stuff.
It's more like mad life stories and stuff. Like they usually talk less about the episode and more about like kind of like the background, like the filming of it and stuff like that. Yeah, like it's kind of like usually like, do you know like where we got this prop from or something like that. It's like these interesting backstories. It's
or you'll just have like, you know, Glenn and Rob just arguing about stuff.
Like it's kind of like they always say on the podcast is like, I can't believe people come up to us and be like think that we are our characters. And I'm like, to be honest, he's kind of are. Like
Glenn for sure definitely goes on a wee bit like this.
100%. Like he can tell he's got this like niggly kind of like he gets angry about like stupid things. Like I think they always talk about the chewing. It's like, and he's like, I don't hate the sound of the chewing, it's the ignorance. It's just like, that's the son Dennis. That's the son Dennis would say.
Yeah, some of the things he comes out with, like one of the latest episodes, there's a full scale argument about who's like the top 10 singers or something, and I think Rob says like he says fucking, what do you call him, Axl Rose, and Glenn just goes off on him for like half an hour or something.
No, absolutely love Sonny.
Yeah, so I have been watching Ted Lasso. Watched the first season, and I'm nearly finished the second season. I was saying to Joff, I needed something happy after all the horror and, you know, just very heavy media I've been consuming, so I just needed something light, and Ted Lasso definitely scratches that itch. It gets a bit too cheesy for me in the second season. There's a Christmas episode where like Santa's sleigh passes by, and I remember Greta passed my computer and saw me watching that, and she's like, is this still your football show? And I was like, and football takes a big backseat for like most of the season. There's like a run of 4 episodes where only one of them has any reference to the matches. So it's like almost not a football show at times.
Well, isn't that the joke though? That he's like he's like doesn't have a football background. He's like an American football or something.
Yeah, but
really, that's the joke.
On the first, but on the first season, you see it's a lot more about his struggle with that and his acclimatizing to the culture and stuff. And it kind of abandons the notion of football altogether for a lot of episodes in the second season. And I just I'm kind of at stages I'm like, but how's the team doing? And obviously I'm coming at that from as a football fan, so it's like, but also how are they doing in the league?
Yeah, you've actually just reminded me on there. Like I rewatched Welcome to Wrexham, and that's kind of in some ways it's kind of similar to what you're saying, where like there's episodes where they don't talk about the football. Or it's like mentioned very like offhand. Or, you know, it's in the background kind of thing.
It sounds similar, yeah. Listening to a lot of podcasts recently. I'm listening to one called If Books Could Kill. It's basically dismantling a lot of non-fiction bestsellers that are using like pseudoscience and incorrectly referencing studies and stuff. It's really funny. It's a really good podcast. If you enjoy listening to people shit on books, I recommend it. It's a good listen. Listening to one called Heavyweight. I went on the Reddit looking for podcast recommendations, and like Reddit absolutely loves this podcast. Listened to about 10 episodes, and I have to say it is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Reddit loves hate.
I've been brought to tears several times listening to this podcast, and I'm gonna finish it. It's another one that is making me feel good about humanity. So, which is what I need.
What's it about?
So it's like heavy issues. It's like kind of people's issues. It's this guy who he's kind of bringing people together who have issues. The second episode, it's like a guy's like, oh yeah, well, I loaned these albums to my friend, and then he became like super successful off these albums and stuff, and I just want the albums back. And then it's like it reveals then that his friend is Moby. And it's like I'm dealing,
right.
and it's like has struggled to deal with like Moby's success measured against his own life and all, and it's kind of, and then they go and meet Moby, and like kind of bring this stuff up, and Moby like tells him, you know, at the height of my success, I was very suicidal and stuff, and kind of trying to convince him, you know, this stuff didn't bring happiness.
Yeah.
And then they go meet RuPaul randomly, and then. But I
just want my albums back. Give me back my albums.
Yeah, and he actually does. No, I won't spoil it for you. If you want to listen to it, it's a great podcast. I highly recommend it. I've listened to another one too called "This Is Actually Happening." It's about like these life-changing events that happen in people's lives. One I listened to was a very controversial episode about a man who witnessed his wife being mauled by a bear, and he didn't intervene or anything because it was a grizzly bear, and he obviously would have died. So like a lot of people were very, very angry at this episode because he kind of dispassionately describes it too. It was 15 years ago, so I'm not really sure how I feel about it, but when I saw people talking about it so much, I just had to listen to it. It is a very harrowing podcast. I need to listen to an episode of Heavyweight and then an episode of that just to feel good and then feel like shit again.
Yeah, I'm not going to listen to that.
but yeah, that's about it for me.
I should just piggyback onto something Jonathan said earlier, and also something in relation to. So yeah, just about another HBO show. I also just love The Sopranos, great show. Yeah, but I've actually started watching The Wire as well as of like last week.
Nice.
Started the first season. I'm only like 5 episodes in, but like seeing the hype, really enjoying it. Just something about that show is just hits the right notes, you know.
I remember me and Sean tried to watch that show years ago. It might have still been on TV at the time, and I just couldn't get into it. But I think I might have been too young, you know, or something.
Yeah, it's a show you can't really look away from. You need to pay a lot of attention
that
to
too,
it.
Yeah, I think some of the things were going over my head, and also from what I remember, and also I wasn't paying enough attention. So maybe I'll give it.
Yeah, you need to pay attention to that show.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but there's just something about it that really clicks with me. Like it's really good. Great show. Yeah. Something else actually I forgot to completely mention is that over the last sort of couple of days since I finished The Shining and didn't want to start another book, I have actually worked my way through all the available Dark Tales and Soulbonder episodes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, enjoyed them.
Nice.
I'll not give you all my thoughts, right?
I'll talk about stuff on plugs. If you want to go on to that next, has anybody got anything to say on what they're consuming? No. So
somebody learn Japanese so I can talk to them.
Anything anybody wants to plug here?
Give us a wee bit of Japanese, Stephen.
Off the top of my head, no. Maybe when we're not recording.
Just the usual YouTube channel stuff for me. I haven't really released anything recently. I'm kind of working on stuff in the background at the moment for future stuff, so hopefully more to talk about in the future. Michael, I'll let you do the podcast plug. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, Jonathan and I are started doing a movie one we've been talking about for a while called Real Report. We just have the intro episode out right now. It's very, very short, just tells you what the show's about. We're basically doing the Oscar Best Picture nominees in reverse chronological order. just to kind of go through like the history of movies and stuff. We've recorded our first episode doing All Quiet on the Western Front. It's being edited at the moment, and it will be out on Tuesday. I released a couple more stories. I released one called Fall Never Die there, and it's very, very loosely called a horror story. It's not really a horror story at all. It's kind of like a weird Twilight Zone-y story, but that's writing that story nearly broke me because I was actually not going to publish it. I went through so many changes, and the other two short stories came out so fully formed, and that one had to be beaten with a blunt object. It was very frustrating, but I kind of happy with how it came out. But yeah, the point of doing this podcast is to get better at stories, to maybe get passable at narrating someday. Just so I don't get in the way of the story. So it's kind of a practice thing for me as well. So I was like, no, Michael, you have to release it because you said you were gonna. So just follow through with it. Even if it's bad, one day you can delete it off the stream, whatever. And then I just want to say, like, Halloween is a massive, massive deal in the city we're from, the city of Derry, which is the same name that, you know, the people in It live in. That's that fictional town is named after our town, which is also obsessed with Halloween.
I thought that was a real place, is it not?
I think it was Derry, is it not?
Well, in the book anyway, there's a throwaway paragraph of Stephen. Yeah, there's a throwaway paragraph of saying named after the town in Ireland. So yes, and a lot of people just don't seem to know that the town in It is named after our Derry.
There's a white clowns.
But yeah, our town is extremely obsessed with Halloween. It's the biggest holiday of the year, so I'm like, I have to do I'm gonna do 3 Halloween episodes. So the next one I'm working on is called Something Nice to Eat, like the trick or treat lyric. The one after that, the next one is called Doorways. Then Something Nice to Eat, and then I'm doing one I don't have a title for yet because it's going to be like vignettes, and I'm hoping that a title comes to me when I write them.
The doorway one, that's not the one you were telling me about, is it?
Oh no, that's it's like a child abduction story.
Well, that could have been what was happening, Michael. We don't know.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah.
When are you going to do that one?
Martini, Michael?
My martini was horrible. I do not recommend martinis in any shape or fashion.
You sure you made it right?
Yes, I made it I think it was I didn't have gin, so I made a vodka martini.
Did you shake it or stir it?
I shook it because we didn't have any stir, so...
That's what James would have done.
Yeah. But no, it was horrible. I don't recommend them.
An appletini, though, that's what you really want.
Yeah, I would have loved an appletini. I'll take that any day. So, unless anybody has any...
When are you writing that story? The one with the other doorway one?
I said I was going to work on vignettes. Those ones should be out, I would say... If I'm releasing a new story every 2 weeks, those one will actually come out on the 29th of October. And I'm thinking there is going to be a very short vignette in that called Red Door.
Yeah, because you reminded me about that night, and that blew my mind. I must have blocked that out completely.
Yeah.
What was this night?
Michael,
our childhood?
No.
When are you doing a horror story on the sharks that live under where the waves come out of in Lisnagalvan?
I'm not quite prepared to handle that subject matter. Just cuts too deep.
Yeah.
What about the
sharks are
horror
dead
story of the kitten that Johnny ran away from?
Well. I think Jonathan asked me, am I ever going to write any fantasy again? And I think it's because I spent 3 years rewriting Soulbonder, where it's just I don't want to not release anything for 3 years again. I'm not kind of ready to do that. I like the fact that I can just release something every couple of weeks and then forget about it. I kind of like that right now. I probably will write a fantasy story again one day, but I'm kind of not mentally ready to sit with something for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's kind of why I've been doing the horror shorts.
I've enjoyed them.
But yeah, thank you. Yeah, so if everybody's done with plugs, we are going to do next pick. This is normally where I would turn it on to Stephen, but we're going to do something different for next book. So does anybody want to do the theme music? Dun, 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 dun. That's right. We're finally doing Harry Potter 2. We're finally doing it. It's like we're a band that we've been doing this. We've had our greatest hit, and we've been trying to top it over and over again. And then everybody's just like, just play that again, you know. And then we're like, no, we're not going to do that. Just play Harry Potter again. We've caved in. We're going to play Harry Potter again,
just every week.
So we're going to do Harry Potter 2. We're probably going to do one Harry Potter book a year. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is our next book. Anybody want to tell everybody who narrates that? Can't quite recall.
Steve Fry.
Stry.
Who's the author again?
Stephen Stein.
Can I guess what it's about first?
Go ahead.
Alright. It's about this guy, Johnny, who goes around smashing on doors. He's like, here I am.
And it ends up in the Chamber of Secrets.
And then whenever he somehow Avada Kedavra's Dumbledore and
Dumbledore. So many doors.
I was going to say, do you ever see one of them thing? It's like how to trigger like a fantasy nerd. It's like Gandalf. It's like a picture of Dumbledore. And it's like Gandalf, and then it's like all these basically different like movies mashed together to like annoy people that they're all like in the same universe.
It sounds like. Do you remember that one? It's a picture of Gandalf, and it's like, do you remember when Picard took the ring to the Death Star or something?
Yeah, something like that. It's like all these different things like mashed
Isn't there a
together.
joke in the office like that too, where like Dwight can't speak, so John Krasinski, like Jim, is like, he's telling Andy about this movie. He's like, it's about these. It's this guy called Dumbledore, and he had to destroy the One Ring or something.
Yeah.
And then you can see Dwight just like losing it. But yeah, we're gonna do Chamber of Secrets next.
I don't know if we should say now, but next episode's going to be like anniversary episode, right? Because
so our promo episode came out on the 3rd. When did our first? Let me just double check when our
17th.
first official episode came out. 17th, yeah. So it'll probably come out on around the anniversary. It depends how fast we are on finishing it, I guess. But yeah,
a full year.
Yeah,
probably all blast through Harry Potter quick enough.
Yeah, I would say so. Are you excited to do Harry Potter?
Always excited to do.
It's coming up that point of the year where Stephen's going to redo them all anyway. So.
That's it, Johnny. You're right. It's just a perfect excuse. Once Michael told me, I already started the Philosopher's Stone. I'm halfway through.
Are you actually?
Yeah.
No, yeah. Excited to do it again. And I think I was reading the Harry Potter books just before we started this, but obviously because we were doing books every weekend, I was reading the books for this, I stopped reading them, so I finished the 4th one. So I'm excited to get back to where I was in like 3 years' time.
Yep. It'll only take six more years.
Wonder if we'll be friends by then.
I doubt it.
No.
Well, we've done like what 20 plus, like, so I mean,
22 years or something.
Oh, we had a good run.
6 more is too many.
That's going to be our breaking point.
Well, you'll be nearly 40, Michael, will you?
Jesus.
I will be.
Do we say that?
6 years old. 37, yeah.
We'll all be near our mid-30s.
God.
Disgusting. Right. On that note,
No,
Michael,
I'll be
do
dead
you
in
want
like 40 more years after that?
Do you want to repeat the book and the narrator and the author again? Just for anyone that didn't catch it.
So the book is called Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling, and the narrator is Stephen Fry.
Hey Johnny, do you have any more like things to say about the Shining movie before we?
About the movie?
Jesus.
Jonathan, on our other podcast, that we'll probably do that movie in like 7 years as well, so it'll be the perfect storm. Doing the
But
Shining.
here, if I'm anything like you, I might actually enjoy it the second time round. I think it was my just comparing it to the book here.
Yeah, comparing
is
it to the
way good.
book is why. Yeah, same.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Let's check out me and Michael's other podcasts in like 7 years' time for my continued rant about The Shining.
The Shining.
Since we link through for it there.
Yeah.
From the future.
Right.
Get the shine on. and
Future
tell-
link. Get your shining on. Fucking
The Shining.
35-year-old Johnny send me a link for the Shining podcast.
Shining it back to you.
It'll just me with my finger being like, here is the Shining link.
Jonathan's going to have like dreams now about don't do the Shining episode. Don't do it. This is by far our longest episode.
Let's just keep going.
Let's sign off here because it's just going on.
Let's just
I actually
keep going.
rushed these along too in this episode, so this could have been fucking like 3 hours.
There's too much ranting to go to be ranted.
Yeah. Right.
Chat these next time.
See you for Harry Potter 2.
Bye.
Later.